set aside for women to highlight their challenges, achievements, and future plans for their development. In our second segment, we'll be centered on a serious diarrhea disease called cholera, which can quickly kill if it is not taken care of. These and much more coming up in our tonight's edition of the Women's Magazine. I am Fatoumata Simaha. Thank you for joining us. The Gambia joins the rest of the world to celebrate the International Women's Day every year, 8 March. This year's celebration locally is empowering of rural women to eradicate hunger and poverty. The day is celebrated throughout the world with the objective of highlighting the challenges in the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls at national and global levels. The Vice President, Dr. Aja Aissatou Seydi, and Minister for Women's Affairs, has this to say on the challenges women face.
You will recall that this day, of course, will be commemorated with the objective to highlight various issues affecting women, and on this occasion, of course, the economic, political, as well as social achievements that women have made, and also to reflect on the challenges that they encounter in the promotion of gender equality, equity, and the empowerment of women and girls at all levels, and of course government and other partners' role in this process. In the Gambia, the day will be commemorated on Saturday, the 14th of April 2012. Most of the time we don't celebrate the day on the day itself for the simple reason that most of the key players, be they in government or civil society, sometimes are usually in New York, working with the Committee on the Status of Women, which is the United Nations CSW, and usually the day finds them in New York. That is why most countries choose another day to celebrate. They'll still recognize the 8th of March, but would celebrate later. And the Gambia is no exception. Fellow Gambians and fellow women, this year the UN global theme for the celebration is Connecting Girls, Inspiring Futures, because indeed girls are future. This theme is very important and apt because it calls for involvement, education, as well as the inspiring of girls, who are the future women, girls of all walks of life, so that they can reach their full potentials and enjoy an equally fulfilling life and future. Therefore, taking cognition of the future current global economic crisis, which we all know, which have had its effects, we all would agree, on employment, for example, and has created a lot of unemployment and poverty. Young people, particularly girl children, are most affected, and this could make many of these people, that particular social grouping of young people, very vulnerable to social hazards, particularly health-related hazards such as HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted infections. Of course, abuse also, and indeed trafficking in young people and exploitation, among other things, usually surface during such trying times. This calls for concerted efforts, therefore, by all concerned people, that is state institutions, the private sector, partners, and individuals, to take this opportunity at this theme that we have in place for this year, which to connect girls. We connect them in a fruitful way, of course, economically, politically, socially, and especially empowering them through education and relevant marketable skills and development to have a better and inspiring future. This would also help, of course, address health concerns and well-being of both the present as well as the future women, who are the girls themselves. Fellow Gambians and fellow women, partners in development, the government of the Gambia has fully recognized the importance of investing in young people, who are the future leaders of this country. But as we always say, they are also leaders in the making right now. Some of them are already leaders anyway. Against this recognition, therefore, His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Jammeh, has indeed created the enabling environment and given leadership in this regard and political will for every young person in this country. And he has challenged that to all young people, as far as you follow, you do well, and you take advantage of his enabling environment he's provided and his policies and programs, surely the sky is the limit. But today, the President has extended that to say, space is the limit in support of their educational and other pursuits in life, particularly in line with national priorities, of course. This is manifested here by the establishment of an institutional and policy framework to address the needs of young people, as I said, particularly in this instance, the girl child. Among these are the formulation of a new national youth policy, an investment plan 2010 to 2020, and the continued support to non-traditional skills development for girls, particularly in areas regarded as fields for boys. Through, of course, the President's Girls Empowerment Project, for example, that is one avenue, free tuition fee for girls, education pursuits by girls in engineering, in ICT, construction, auto mechanics, just to name a few areas. In addition, youth-friendly programs have been implemented, particularly in the areas of sports development, to encourage as well as enhance the participation of girls in the attainment of our national development goals, key amongst which is ending poverty.
Highlighting from her own perspective what could be done positively to change the lives of rural women, this is what she has to say.
The empowerment of rural women and the theme that has been selected internationally is long overdue, because we know that rural women, they form the majority of women in our society. They constitute about 70% of the entire female population, and their challenges are many. Right now I'm coming from a meeting in which the Vice President has commissioned for us to discuss a project for rural women. And I just mentioned a theme which is so important and dear to my heart. That is the processing of our foodstuff. That is one major challenge we are facing as women in the rural areas. We find out that we grow so many vegetables and they are seasonal. And then the women, they work so hard in their vegetable gardens. Right now, at this time of the year, I just traveled to the rural areas. I just came, I was there over the weekend. And I was looking at these women having large pans of tomatoes on their heads. Nowhere to sell these tomatoes, no marketing outlets, no storage systems, and no processing systems. This is one big challenge at the moment that we have. If we could arrange, be it the government, the women NGOs, even us gender activists who are working so hard for the empowerment of women in our society, we need to look at these issues that will release the drudgery on them and give them some form of economic empowerment. And then that is another way of fighting poverty, because that is all about these MDGs, fighting poverty, and the International Women's Decade, 2010-2020. Really, the main theme is to eradicate poverty and also assist women's economic empowerment, especially rural women in agriculture and fisheries, because they are all part of areas where women could really become economically empowered. So if we could have marketing outlets, how can we have access to the markets? How could we have transportation available to the women so that they could sell their produce even from their own gardens.